Hey guys, it's Amy here, and I know I haven't made a video in a very long time, but today I'm going to be bringing you my top 13 books of 2013. These books are not necessarily books that came out in 2013, but they are books that are new to me in 2013, so they may have come out years ago and I've only just got around to reading them, but they are my favourite from this year. I will list them in chronological order of how I read them last year because there's not much point in me putting them in any kind of ranking because they're all such different books. So let's get on with it. My first book of 2013 that was 5 stars, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, and I can't believe I didn't read this sooner, and I need to read a lot more John Green. I don't actually own any more books from him. If you have any recommendations for more books by John Green that I should read, or what ones I should read next, then write them down below because I'd love to add them to my wish list and hopefully get them soon. There's not much point in me describing the storyline of The Fault in Our Stars. I did a book talk on it, so I will link that down below for you. Okay, number 2 on the list is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This book runs in a similar vein as The Fault in Our Stars, and I read them back to back and felt quite kind of sad after reading them both. They both focused on extreme illness and the loss of loved ones and kind of really sad topics. Although in the end they were kind of happy books, they were quite like, whew, a lot of deep, intense feelings were brought out whilst reading these books. The edition that I had of A Monster Calls didn't have any illustrations in, but I am aware of one that has a lot of illustrations, and I would quite like to read that one because I can imagine that they would be really good, and I've heard from people that do have that book that they are beautiful illustrations, so I'm gonna see if I can get my hands on it. A Monster Calls is a very short read, but it also had such a strong, powerful story and such a kind of powerful message that came across in such a short space of time. Patrick Ness has an amazing style of writing that really draws you in and connects you with the characters in such a short space of time, and I think it was brilliant and I really would suggest reading it. Number 3 of this year was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I have never read a similar book, and I have never read anything with a remotely similar storyline to this book. It was really, really unique and really a very interesting read. The story is set many years in the future where many people live through a virtual game. They log in each day and live their lives through a game. The maker of the game then puts his fortune within the game hidden, and all the people who live and play through this game are on a hunt to find this fortune that the maker of the game has left. It's such a gripping and fantastic adventurous story that kept me going all the way through. I never wanted to put it down, and the characters were easily relatable too. If you have any interest in gaming or 80s pop culture or anything to do with the kind of apocalyptic-y dystopian genre in an adult setting, I would definitely recommend this book. Number 4 on my list is a series of books, as I read them all back to back, and that is Percy Jackson and the Olympians series by Riordan. Now, I was recommended these books for a really long time, and it was another that I kind of put to the side and said, yeah, I'll read it, it doesn't look that great, it doesn't look like what I'd enjoy. I was proved very wrong because I enjoyed them immensely, like they were so good. Follow the story of Percy Jackson and his friend, the satyr Grover, and his other friend Annabeth, and they go on adventures and quests and need to help Olympus and save Olympus, and oh, they're just fantastic. If you haven't read any of them, or you think maybe they're not for you, I would really strongly recommend buying maybe just the first one and just seeing how quickly you get pulled in by the story and the characters and the feeling that you like want to be like. It was another kind of Harry Potter series for me. Like, I started reading them and I just thought I need to finish, I need to like know what happens to them, and there is another series after called The Heroes of Olympus, which I have yet to buy, and I'm really looking forward to carrying on the Percy Jackson story. If you like Greek mythology and adventures and young adult books that don't focus so strongly on romance, this is definitely a series for you if that is what you're interested in. Number 5 on my list is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom. I had had this book on my wishlist for a very long time and then was kindly sent it by the publishers at Quirk Books, so I got round to reading it pretty quickly and really thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not what you would expect it to be honest. From the cover of the book it looks quite creepy and scary, and admittedly some of the pictures that are involved in the story are a little creepy. Ransom really did the research for this book and looked into a lot of old history and photographs and found them, and then worked the story around these really interesting photos. It's a book that I can't describe well enough to get across how good the story is. The protagonist of the story discovers this whole house of children who have abilities and powers, and those are then backed up by the pictures in the book, which are really interesting. The second in the series is coming out this year, and I'm really looking forward to reading that too and seeing where the story goes from there. Number 6 on my list is The Shadow of the Wind by Ruiz. This book was kindly sent to me by Cline at Little Ghost Creations. I will link her channel down below, and it came all the way from Canada, and I absolutely loved this book. I didn't expect to, and when I won it from her channel I was a little unsure and didn't know whether I was going to enjoy it, and was slightly worried because someone so lovely had sent me a book and I didn't know whether I was going to like it or not, and I was so glad she did, and I was so glad that I read it. I don't think many people speak about this book enough because I haven't really heard much about it, and I think it is a phenomenal story. It's full of adventure and mystery and intrigue and love, and it's all spun so well and written so fantastically by Ruiz that I just can't describe to you how brilliant it is. If I had a top 3, it would definitely be in that top 3. It was a fantastic read. Number 7 on my list is Wall by Howey, and this book is also fantastic. If you like dystopians, things like The Hunger Games, the Maze Runner series, Divergent, any of those, and they're all young adult books. If you like those kind of things, this series is definitely something for you. I haven't got round to reading the second in the series, which is called Shift, but the first one was absolutely brilliant. It's a dystopian for adults that is brilliantly written and really interesting, and all the characters just pull you in. All the characters are so connectable, and it's so good that I even gave it to my boyfriend to read because he's not really a big reader, but he's really enjoying it as well now, and I just love sharing books that I know people will also love, so that's definitely one for you if you're into the whole dystopian kind of thing but you're looking to move into maybe a more adult genre. Number 8 on my list is Fight Club by Palahniuk. My mum suggested that I watch Fight Club the film as we had it on our TV, so I did that, and then after thoroughly enjoying the film I thought I want to read this book. It sounds really good. The film was really good, so surely the book has to be even better. And it was equally as good as the film, and I really enjoyed it. The basic gist of Fight Club is that there is a man and he decides to start fight clubs around where he lives, where men can go and just beat each other up pretty much. It's a bit of a strange one, but there's a nice twist at the end, and it's one of those stories that you get to the end and you're just like, whoa, that's pretty cool, like I like how he did that, so I'd recommend that if you like a good twist. It's definitely one for you. Number 9 on my list is The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd, and this is a fantastic read. This is a very dark and kind of weird book, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm not one for scary or creepy things, and this was kind of creepy, so maybe if you're not into the whole kind of horror thing, this might not be for you. It's based on an island. A young girl, the daughter of a madman, goes on a hunt for her father, and he's on an island and he's up to no good doing some strange experiments with animals, and she finds out lots of dark and creepy things, and in the end has to try and escape from all these dark and creepy things. If you're into that kind of creepiness, then I definitely suggest it for you because it is a very dark book. Right, my 10th book on the list is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Chbosky. I read this book for the first time this year and I enjoyed it so much. I can't even tell you. This would probably be in the top 3 if I had a top 3. I can't describe to you the intense feelings and emotion that were brought out by this book alone, and I think a lot of people have had that, and that's why it's so widely talked about, and I think that's probably why it's taken me so long to read, because it's another one of those books that I kept putting to the side because it's so amazing and I just didn't think it was going to be as good as people had told me, and I was wrong again. It was really good, and the film was equally as amazing. I watched the film really soon after reading the book, and it just, wow, really good. And you know, if anyone else has those same feelings for The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I'm sure many of you do, then talk to me down below because I would love to chat to you about that. It's such a good book and such a good film. Number 11 on my list is When Did You See Her Last, and this is from the All the Wrong Questions series by Lemony Snicket, which is a follow-up series to the series of unfortunate events. It's the story of how Lemony Snicket became a detective and his kind of growing up and going on adventures and discoveries. It's a brilliant story. If you love the series of unfortunate events, then you'll probably know how good Lemony Snicket is at wheeling a story, and this is exactly what he did in this book. And if you haven't got into this series, I'd really recommend reading the first and then obviously the second, because that makes sense, and then you'll know how good it is. Number 12 on my list is two books, kind of, because I haven't read the whole series yet. I've started by the Sherlock Holmes adventures, and I've got them all in a nice little set of books, and I've only read two at the moment, A Study in Scarlet and The Sign of Four. And if you haven't read anything by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, then I would strongly suggest that, especially as Sherlock is so massive at the moment because of the TV series. I have also been watching the TV series, and how good is it? I can't even tell you, it's so exciting. If you want to know where that's all come from, it's all based on these books and they're amazing. I would recommend them to everyone, especially if you're enjoying Sherlock. Okay, and we've got to book number 13, the most recent book that I've really enjoyed, and that is The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly. I haven't heard many people speak about this book, and it is really good. It looks like it's a massive book from the amount of pages, but actually it's about half the size of that, because half of the book is like a author interview and information on his research. So actually it's about 300 pages of the 500-page book, which is a very strange thing. So when it suddenly ended halfway through, I was like, huh, what's going on? But a brilliant story. If you like fairy tales and you like wartime and dark kind of cynicalness, definitely not a story for children, even though it has fairy tales wrapped in there. John Connolly has managed to twist and turn these fairy tales to make them a lot darker and a lot different to what they originally were. Although I know the Grimm's fairy tales were very grim, now these have been turned to even more grim and quite sadistic and quite twisted, and even in some places quite gruesome. Even still, I really enjoyed the story and the kind of psychological, unconscious element that came along with it. By the end, it was just fantastic. A really, really, really good read. A young boy who gets taken into a world kind of like Narnia, going through a wall and ending up somewhere else. And he meets all these different characters and discovers things about himself. He eventually gets to the end of his quest and has to test himself and become the man that he is supposed to be, and it is just brilliant. I really enjoyed it and I'd highly recommend. So that is the end of my top 13 for 2013. I hope you all enjoyed this. I know I haven't been great at making videos recently. It's because I'm in my final year of university and work is off the scale. It's a crazy amount of stuff that I need to do, but I wanted to make this video for you because I wanted to share with you the books that I enjoyed this year. If you have any comment to make on any of the books that I read this year, and if you want to tell me the books you read this year that you really enjoyed, I'd love that. I'll link down below Facebook, my blog, Goodreads. Follow me on Twitter if you so wish. Follow me on Instagram because I've started to take pictures of all the books that I'm reading and rating them, and that's just a more interactive way of seeing what I'm reading, which is all fun, you know. If you'd like to buy any of the books that I've spoken about today, then I'll leave the book depository links down below if you'd like to click on that. It would be lovely. So I think that's everything, and I hope to get a video to you all soon. I hope you've all had a brilliant day, and I will see you soon. Bye! Off for the rest of them. But apparently not. They're not making one that's the same size as all the others. This is the size, and they've changed it completely. Why would you do that? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit in with any of the other books on my shelf now.